and the Azir. Gotta be scared of these champions that just have so much agency. This time TES saying, no thank you, we're not gonna give you that on blue side. A lot of the things we wanted to play into it perhaps are out of the way. A lot of the macro threats being taken off the board. I think that's it for NIP, right? Take away things like Galio, things like Ryze, things like Talia that are going to be a bit more difficult to deal with. You know, you can only ban so many of them, unfortunately, with them being up here in game number 2, but definitely want to limit that pool as much as possible with the Orianna coming in as the final ban. So it's actually going to be Creme who's pretty heavily targeted from the side of NIP.
Yeah, big respect over towards Creme. It seems like Doinb wants to get himself a bit of an easier matchup. Orianna, especially in the hands of Creme, very powerful even in the early stages of the game. We saw him winning 1v1s on the Howling Abyss with this champion specifically and working pretty well on it, so you know that he's very successful on this pick. Looks like NIP still want to give Leave an early prio pick. Picking himself up the Varus is going to be responded to, though, by a number of very good champions on JackeyLove's side. The Sivir would likely be a fair answer, and there it is.
Sivir is the Varus answer. I mean, that's how it goes right now in the meta. It's what you pick if it's up. The Aurora gonna be the interesting complement to that. I would imagine this is going to Creme. That would make a little bit more sense to me. Of course, it can still be Flex, but I don't believe 369 has played it across this split. I could be wrong. No, it doesn't look like he has. It looks like it would be his first Aurora game. So just an early lock-in. And again, with all of those bans targeted towards Creme, they want to make sure you can get him on something comfortable early. Aurora is certainly kind of an LPL classic. And if we remember towards the beginning of the year, you know, back towards first stand and like split number 1, this Aurora was a massive pick for Creme, really towards bringing them to that split 1 title. So makes sense, you know, bringing it out here. Alistair, a really high priority support. For my money, still maybe the most consistent in the game, especially in terms of those tank engages. Makes sense to take away, and it's the Sylas as the answer for Doinb. So no more Scion, no more tanky answer. They want combat here.
Played in game 5, 2 very high levels of success against FPX, at least in the later stages of the game. Important to note, this also could flex towards the jungle, as Sylas has gotten some buffs in that position over the last couple of weeks. Hong's going to lock in the Braum to match alongside the Sivir as we head into the second phase of bans.
Yeah, really what I'm looking at here is just what you want to prioritize. Of course, it is bot mid, taken for both sides. Again, potentially Sylas is flexible, but I would imagine more jungle bans are going to be coming out here. I think pinching that pool as much as possible is really ideal for both of these teams, and we're seeing that. You know, Naiyou starting to get some of his carries taken away. That Viego that we talked about really being his go-to in terms of what do you want to do to win the game? You know, play Viego. There are other things, like we said, the Lee Sin that can be a bit more aggressive if you want to play that alongside Sylas. Nidalee was what they ended up pairing with that Sylas in game number 5 to take down FPX. Plenty of other options on the board, but it's going to be the Poppy taken away for NIP. I mean, yeah, it's Alistair Sylas. I think you got to take it away.
They'll be able to, yeah, take some of those guys out of the fight, which would be a very tough situation for NIP. As now they're looking for a top laner at the very least, and then we'll see where exactly that Sylas does get flexed to. Overall, the jungle pool, I would imagine, continuing to get pinched. That would be bad news for Naiyou, as again, he's a big part as to what what NIP do to win games. And you know that top esports is okay with pinching the pool because Kanavi can play basically anything.
Yeah, the real question here is, like, how much do you want to pinch it? Because right now, Xin Zhao and Wukong are both available. They're kind of 2 of the more premier junglers. Something like Skarner is also up if you want to, you know, play a little bit more towards that, you know, facilitative kind of tank play style. So plenty of options left available, and it's going to be the Gwen that's actually taken off the board. I really like this. There are too many junglers to really take out a lot of the easy options for Kanavi. He kind of has his pick of the litter no matter what, and so you might as well get rid of really the best top laner left in the Gwen and make sure that 369 doesn't have the easy laning phase there, but it will be the Xin Zhao locked in. Definitely much more of a combat mid-jungle duo here for the Xin Zhao and the Aurora. They saw how well it did earlier in the last game with that Qiyana as well, so they want something that Kanavi can go out and skirmish on again.
Saw it work very well in that last game. As now we see what NIP want to lock in. Will the Sylas head towards the jungle? It's looking like it based off the hovers right now, but you know, never to think about that when talking about draft. There it is, Doinb's Ryze. Safe staple pick as always. He did lose on this pick in game number 1 against FPX, but you know that he is always going to be a massive threat when in this position. And we'll see what Solokill now wants to pick up. A weak side thing like this Yorick would make some sense. Get some Solokill prowess here for solo lane prowess, I should say. And banning the Gwen, good idea against it.
let's not forget, Doinb had a 91% ban rate on Rise in the spring split. They were not letting this champion through against NIP, and he's definitely going to have the opportunity to really take over here. I like the way that NIP's draft is complemented by a lot of the rest of their picks, but the Yorick is actually going to be answered by the Cassante on the top side, a champion that, despite some changes, I think has really benefited from the kind of patch adjustments. And now we're looking at another game where blue side probably has the tempo in the mid game, where you want to make sure that you're looking to take advantage of those skirmishes around grubs, especially because this Sylas Rise really need to use that, realm warp to create a big macro advantage. But I do think there is a bit of a lane, favorite towards top esports. I think especially this Sivir, if you can get the shove in the 2v2 and really make Varus a little bit more difficult to play around, I think that is a way for TES to be able to stabilize here. And I think they scale pretty well as well.
Yeah, really nice scaling on top esports' side. NIP, it seems like their draft is going in a number of different directions. They have a great 1-3-1 composition, of course, with the Yorick and the Rise. They have enough wave clear with somebody like Varus in the AD carry position. The question is, how are they going to be able to play these team fights? And honestly, I feel like overall, top esports in a good position to match those solo lanes in the side lanes regardless with the composition that they have, on top of being already a very good team fighting 5-man unit. Overall, looking good for the 1 seed from Group Ascend, at least through the first game of that series. A very dominant Game 1 win puts them up to a 1-0 position over Ninjas and Pyjamas. But NIP want to avoid falling down to the lower bracket, at least without any sort of a fight. They are on blue side. They got the composition that they want. We'll see if they can execute here in game number 2.
Execution is the key. It's the name of the game. We saw last game, it doesn't matter how, how your level 1 goes. It's what you do with the lead that you get. We'll see which team can take the easiest route and get the most of it.
And because this time we do not have a super chaotic early game to start things off with, we want to let you know here, before Game 2 gets underway, that the LPL English broadcast is brought to you by ProDiff. You can improve your game, get coaching from the best of the best that we have in North America, in Europe, in those ERL systems, even some LTA players mixed into the pool of amazing coaches and opportunities you get to make sure that your game can look like the pros. You can use code LPL10 to save 10% off on prodiff.gg.
Yeah, and I think these teams could definitely benefit from some pro diff after that game number 1, NIP in particular. So hopefully they were able to get that coaching coming in for game number 2. Not quite as simple for either of these teams as it was in game number 1. You don't have those effortless go buttons like the Jarvan or, really basically everything that TES had in game number 1. It's going to be a lot more side lane focused for both of these teams who can generate those advantages, and it's going to be important to see. We already have some trading level 1 as is expected down here on the bot lane.
A heal for Hong very early, just to try to establish some dominance in the 2v2. Again, it's a lane that overall TS should feel very comfortable in, especially level 1. They'll get this early push, and that should be the name of the game going forward, as Leave now has the Winter's Bite procced on him again. One more auto attack would have landed that concussive blows, and Niket is going to have to burn a heal as well in trade. We're dueling it out here in the bottom lane, and it looks like overall, Leave's actually going to be able to punch back rather nicely. But the level 2 should still go over to TS, and that's going to mean they're going to be able to push forward. Another Winter's Bite lands, but not much after that.
Yeah, it's a very chaotic trade, but, this is why you pick the Sivir, because she actually trades really well into the Varus early, and you get that spell shield for late. We do see Naiyou making his way down here once again. A repeat, potentially, of game number 1. Just going to back.
Yeah, at this point, better not to show, in my opinion. Gives Kanavi an early chance to go in, but instead, going to use the Abscond Duck, not landing it. The spell shield was there from JackeyLove anyway, but he bought enough time for Kanavi to rotate down to his bottom side jungle, so he is not in danger of getting invaded yet again.
Yes, definitely a more optimal way to play this out, even if you don't get the kill. You're not giving up everything in order to make this happen. It's just going to be a pretty easy start for both of these junglers here. Can't be too frustrated with that, but I do think that eventually it's going to come down to these mid-game power spikes. I think that's really what I'm going to be looking at. Doinb, what's his laning phase looking like? We highlighted him early on, you know, in the pre-show here, talking about him being such an important and kind of background member for NIP. Well, he's not going to be in the background in this one. He is on one of his signature champions that has constantly been taken away from him, and I think he's so important towards how NIP need to play this game out. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can kind of claw his way back from the small CS deficit he's in right now.
Hong doesn't know that that Tri-Brush is warded. It's going to be met by Leave and Niket. However, could have been a bait in its own right as Kanavi comes in with a win, becomes lightning, and picks up first blood for top esports. Leave had no idea that was coming.
It was all calculated. Absolutely nothing to say there. Hong with the bait and Kanavi with the capitalization as he ends up diving in to pick up that first blood. Kind of the opposite of what happened in game number 1. A lot of early gold going over to TES, and especially getting that on Xin Zhao makes a lot of these skirmishes even more scary. So we see the teleport coming into the mid lane from Doinb to be able to equalize. Creme going to be able to get that back off as well. But massive, massive success there for TES and already in a great spot.
Yeah, I mean, Leaf just did not see that one coming. He thought that, oh, free kill for me, and looks like Hong knew a little bit better than that. See a flash traded here. Up on the top side, 369 without mana. Gonna force himself back and TP into the top side once again. As we can already see things opening up a little bit here for Ninjas in Pyjamas. However, this time Naiyou not as far behind, able to full clear up to the top side of the map, and now making his way down bottom where JackeyLove's at about half HP.
Yeah, they're going to be looking for this. Jackie hasn't had a chance to back yet.
Initial damage onto Hong, but just going to force JackeyLove off the wave. It should be enough to at least get some plating here for NIP, but they're going to have to move quickly because now here comes Creme and Kanavi. Creme dashes forward. Already doing a little bit of damage, but he gets rooted up by the Rune Prison. Niket knocking him up as well. Creme forced the flash away, but Doinb will follow and pick up a kill in response for NIP. Niket going to take the brunt of the damage by Kanavi and Hong as this Xin Zhao Braum combo doing a lot, but not enough to take down Naiyou just yet as he's now in a 1v3. Kanavi will drop, and it's Fates of Warfare picked up for the Ninjas.
It's perfect for NIP. Everything that you could hope for from that fight ends up turning out. Of course, not the worst case scenario for TES. He's still got a kill on Kanavi, but that's massive for Naiyou. We wanted to see him carry. Well, here you go. 2 kills on the Sylas to move forward, but it's Doinb who really makes a gigantic difference in this fight. We're going to get a replay. Creme comes in here feeling like he can pressure out NIP. They say, why would we do that? Niket just flashes onto him, locks him up, even with the flash over the wall. The double over the wall for NIP ends up following through. Yes, they trade their support here, and Kanavi does get a bit more gold, but Naiyou at this point in the game is really strong, a lot stronger than you think. Sylas jungle's in a great spot right now, and the fact that he's able to live this exchange because of the damage coming in from Leave is massive. It's a huge win for NIP, and once again, the team that gets first blood ends up throwing it away in an exchange.
A much better spot here for NIP, as I pause my thoughts here, is 369 is going all out on a solo kill. He has the Maiden on his side. He's able to dodge away from the Antofo strikes. He dodges away from another one. He flashes away and will slam him down with the shovel. Solo kill living up to his name.
What a gorgeous 1v1 from Solokill, styling on one of the best top laners in LPL history on this Yorick. You wanted a highlight play that you can point to and say that Solokill is breaking ankles. Well, there you go. Massive play, and also it gets gold on Yorick. The Sheen has been bought. This is a great spot for NIP, and it only gets better.
That was like the breathe clip. Do you remember that from a couple of weeks ago? Where you just dodged away from every single Cassante Q. I mean, happened again, and potentially even a more desperate situation there for Solokill, who was without mana, barely able to use that final Q as he regenerated just enough of his bar to go for that final auto attack combo. And hey, now Ninja Pyjamas in a great spot here in this game. And as I was saying earlier, just the fact that this time around Naiyou has kills and he's not down 4 camps, very good position, especially on this Sylas.
Yeah, this game is in a really tough spot for TES. I'm not saying it's certainly over by any means. You do have those 2 kills on Kanavi that you should be able to pressure, but with Grub spawning in 15 seconds and Ninjas in Pyjamas really spiking around this time anyways, with some of those first item completions potentially coming in very shortly, you could be looking at a very dangerous fight if you walk into a Sylas and walk into a Varus and walk into a Ryze, who can create all this action basically anywhere. You need to be hyper vigilant with your wards and with your setup, but right now it's Solokill who needs to worry.
Yeah, he did well in the 1v1, maybe not so much in the 3v1. The bouncing blades going forward. Kanavi looking for one more auto. He heals up nicely with a Q, but it's not enough as this time Solokill will go down. However, here comes the potential collapse here for NIP. Niket looking, posturing for a headbutt pulse combo, and Naiyou has the ultimate from Aurora stolen away. Going between worlds to lock down Kanavi. The Crescent Guard going to buy some space, but it should result in Doinb picking up the kill. Overall a 1-for-1 as NIP now have control around the Grubs.
It's just so many resources that have to be invested into killing Solokill that they just get trapped. There's no way for them to get out, and especially because of those power spikes that I just talked about, it's really easy for NIP to be able to capitalize after some tower shots have gone down. That's Grubs going over in favor of Ninjas in Pyjamas, and that's not just Grubs for a team. You know, that's always really good. This is Grubs for Ryze and for Yorick and for Sylas, a comp that's perfectly suited to be able to play these side lanes, and that could really be a big problem for TES.
They now have the gold lead. They now have 3 Grubs with the 1-3-1 split pushing composition. Ninja Pyjamas feeling good as they were certainly punched in the mouth a little bit after that game 1. They felt most likely like, hey, they were in a good spot after getting 2 early kills and everything came crashing down. So far, still standing strong. Though Top Esports still have a lot of time left in this game. Try to say something about it again. They scale very nicely. They team fight very well. They just got to make sure this game extends to the point where they're going to be able to fight at that even stage.
Yeah, you definitely need to make sure you can stall out at this point. There's really not a lot of easy fights from this point onwards in the game. If you can play front to back, especially when Sivir starts hitting some, you know, second or third item spikes, like that could be positive, but we're not even at those first item spikes yet. They're just barely coming through for a couple of members, junglers in particular here. So definitely need to make sure that you can stall this game up, but you also can't afford to give over all these resources. Right now, Top Esports, at the very least, going to be around the dragon, but Naiyou going to be the first one to pressure it.
Actually, just is enough to get Kanavi and Hong away. They leashed it. Now they are pulling the leash away. Now looking for a fight potentially in the mid lane. When it becomes lightning, does not connect. Neither does the Winter's Bite. Stalling enough time for JackeyLove to get in position as well. Kanavi can dash forward, finds that Crescent Guard on to leave, knocks him up with a 3 Talon Strike. Full collapse onto the NIP bottom laner will take him down as the Varus was left out of position. And Niket does not have his ultimate yet, which means he dies in the mid lane as well. 2 big kills for TES will regain them control of this game too.
NIP really want to pressure this dragon, and so they send Yorick up to try and collapse on the play, but TES say, screw the Yorick, we're not worrying about him, we're just going to take the fight to you, we're going to use our flashes to get on your main carry, and now you are trying to fight a 4v2 against us, and we win that every day of the week. Not only is it first dragon here, but the gold lead is back in favor of Top Esports. 4 kills on Kanavi. You'd love to see a few more of those on your carries, but certainly something you'll take for the Xin Zhao.
You love to see out of Kanavi. Again, one of the most important players for Top Esports' success. As now Naiyou's going to try to get one back here on a 369, but he goes all out and will heal up enough and nicely cancels the knockup from Niket as well. It's going to cost nobody their lives as actually Naiyou able to juggle the tower aggro very well. And it means that NIP are able to get one back on the top side of the map.
Bit of a skill check there coming in from 369. NIP end up passing the skill check, but certainly not an easy one. Solokill now just going to chase down Creme. The power of a 1-kill Yorick is already so immense, very difficult to deal with, but nicely done by NIP to be able to at least get some gold back. But Naiyou is going to get spotted out here.
Greeting for this grub, this Gromp. He really wants it. Should be able to smite it away. No, he doesn't get it. As now Kanavi's going to be able to get it. Okay, it's all fine. Nobody ends up dying, and that's the most important thing in this situation. As the Chain of Corruption was cleansed here for JackeyLove, meaning that he is going to be without that summoner for the time being, and Kanavi finally getting his hand and an opportunity to counter jungle.
I'll be honest, Grapes, anytime I see a Sylas with a low health bar, I just assume that he's not killable. That's just generally how that champ goes.
Fair
but
enough.
Creme?
Run! Okay. He's okay.
He almost got destroyed by the goons, and now Leave is the one under threat.
You can't be walking up on that mid wave. Just wait for it to crash down. Kanavi jumps in for kill number 5.
It's just a clinical mistake from Leave. And you know what? I love Leave. I think he's a very good player. This has been a weakness in his game, is he'll step up too far for a minion wave, or he'll try to get too deep of a ward placed down. He'll just make these small mistakes that can give a bit of breathing room back to top esports. And a game that looked like it was firmly in favor of Ninjas in Pyjamas has kind of swung back out of their favor. I think the only lucky thing for them is the fact that almost all of the gold is going to be on Kanavi here, but that Xin Zhao's diving in. It could still be a very big problem. Triforce now completed for Solokill. Roa completed for Doinb as well. So some big item spikes coming in for NIP. They should be a little bit more threatening now.
And you also notice, Leave is going the poke Varus with the comment. He's going to hate his life against Kazante, Xin Zhao, and even a Sivir, right? So, and a Braum to boot, right? So not only is he far behind, going to be in a tough situation to play some of these team fights out. A lot of this game now relies on the top side of the map. Naiyou still very strong on this Silas jungle as he goes for an invade onto the enemy red buff. And here comes a Realm Warp as well, as Doinb is looking to make this a numbers advantage for NIP. They at least get a little bit out here. Now they're going to try to secure this red and should be able to do so.
Yeah, they're going to get the red. They do get quite a bit out of it as well. I believe Hong used ultimate there as well on the Braum, so you're not going to be able to use
stolen.
that.
That was hijacked.
Oh, the stolen, yeah, the
5.
hijacked one. So definitely feels a little bit better in that particular instance. Of course, it couldn't be Braum. He's level 5. Yep. So definitely not going to be his.
14 minutes. Not great.
It's not great. Creme still under threat, though. Under tower.
Okay, nice usage. You can't back. Okay, whatever.
Creme playing with fire here in the bot lane.
Yeah.
Just he's limit testing. You have to understand. You have to understand how it's going. But you know, with everything going on, NIP have very much gotten their gold lead back. Naiyou sitting at 3-0 and 2 on this Silas, even though he is at a gold deficit himself in the jungle matchup. That's more than made up for the fact that Doinb is in a great spot. 2 kills on the rise. He's up 20 CS. You know, we talked about it. This champion was banned a ton against NIP for a reason. He's really proving it right now.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Top Esports decided to keep themselves in those specific lane assignments for so long. I mean, we saw Creme back and come back to that bottom lane against the Yorick, and clearly was not working out. But now with 369 on the bottom side and without a teleport, should mean that Ninjas Pyjamas secure this Rift Herald, as they have done a really good job on the top side of the map in terms of those objectives. They just got to try to turn those into more towers than just the one that Solokill was able to collect on the bottom side.
Yeah, the concerning thing for Top Esports, I think, in particular here, is that they're losing all of the side lane pressure against a Yorick and a Ryze and a Silas and all of these things. They're losing all of that side lane pressure with the Herald and the Grubs. And also, the Dragon that they got that they're trying to stack, well, they're getting second Drake spawning at 16 minutes into the game. This is going to be a pretty difficult win condition to get. So we see this mid tower now sieged under. JackeyLove could be in a bit of danger, but it's going to be the teleport expended from Kazante.
Gets caught out here by Kanavi, stunned by the concussive blows. He has the Crescent Guard to push away Kanavi, but here comes the rest of the fight as Top Esports will collapse upon the Alistar. He flashed away, but 369 is right there. Goes all out, takes down the cow, making it 1-0 for Top Esports so far. And 369 is not done just yet. Looking for the Intofo strikes, does not find the knockup on Naiyou, and that will be all. But it's a big kill going in response for TES.
It's a nice pick. It's an overreach coming in from NIP, and it's really well capitalized on by Top Esports here. They should be able to get the Dragon off of that play. Again, even if the Dragon's going to be a pretty difficult win condition, you got to at least try and go for it here. If you're TES, that's part of your scaling, and so Kanavi going to be in the area. With these teleports coming out, though, and the death timers being so short, they can't even pressure it, though.
Niket is back and should be able to be in a good position. The problem is he no longer has his Unbreakable Will. That means it's going to be much harder for him to survive for long in a potential team fight. You can see the Alistar going Redemption first item just to try to keep his team alive. As NIP will make their attempt on this Mountain Drake. Should be able to do so with Kanavi opting instead to head back to base.
If there was ever a time where it was definitely given over, it's now, but here we go, Creme.
Oh, Niket misses the combo. Might cost them a kill onto Creme. Doinb and Solokill still doing a lot of damage, though. Not able to find a knockup or a root just yet. Creme will be able to survive, although it might come at the cost of Hong. He flashed the wave here from the cage, but NIP are a death ball, going straight into the jungle of Top Esports as they even up the kill count at 7.
Stop giving Doinb Rise. He's really good at this champion. Again, even with Niket kind of messing up the Alistar combo a bit there. They're still in a spot where they are easily able to pick up a free kill on the bot side, and this is what happens when NIP gets map control. They do a great job of being able to take advantage of it. It's why we pushed so hard for them in game number 1 to have something they could play around in terms of the tempo. We now get to see exactly what that looks like, and it looks pretty darn good.
And the top side doing a ton of work right now for Ninjas Pyjamas, even though Leave was put behind very far in terms of maybe some of his own mistakes, but also just Top Esports punishing him.
Leave.
As I say that, there he goes again, death number 4. So that is where Top Esports have been able to try to mend that gap a little bit. But the rest of NIP doing a very good job at this point.
I know I sound like a broken record, but this has been a problem for Leave. This has been an issue for him throughout his entire career in this exact spot at this exact time in the game. It's definitely a bit of a momentum killer here. It does get a bit of gold back in the pockets of Top Esports. Really, this entire gold difference is Doinb on the rise. If you can get on that rise in these fights, or if you can stop him from really machine gun breaking through your backline, you could still win fights if you're Top Esports, especially with these towers being taken here. So, yeah, the game far from over, certainly at this point.
Yeah, tower counts even, kill counts in favor of TES. They actually now have the gold lead themselves after picking up that bottom lane tier 1. So, it is Doinb ahead. The rest of NIP now slowly falling behind. However, compositionally speaking, still like what they are potentially going to be able to do. You have Solokill and Doinb in the side lanes. You have Naiyou able to roam around, potentially find picks. That is going to have to be the strategy for Ninjas Pyjamas, as long as Leave is able to stay alive in the mid lane himself.
That's definitely the goal on this Varus. I think, you know, we're seeing some of the pitfalls of perhaps the low mobility AD carries for Leave, but Solokill gets all this free time to push in on these side waves. York's still very much a win condition for Ninjas in Pyjamas. I still do believe that side lanes are the key to winning this game for both of these teams, and NIP having control over those grubs, certainly at least very much in their favor for now. But timers to watch, Otacon in 5 seconds, Dragon in 2 minutes. Those are the two things you really got to watch out for. Dragons might not be as highly prioritized because of the lack of stacking, but certainly something to look for. Kanavi could be the target, though.
Just enough to get the blue buff here for Naiyou, as he has fallen a little bit behind in CS at this point. Kanavi always does a good job at making sure that he is in the game, regardless of where his team is at. So despite the early deficit, Kanavi certainly the forefront of this composition right now here for Top Esports. Looks like our friend, the JD Robot, thinks that NIP have a good chance to win this game, but we'll see how the rest of this one progresses, as Niket has potentially been caught out once more. Has to back out here using that pulverize. It does get the teleport out from 369. That's a nice cooldown that NIP can feel proud about.
Yeah, definitely at least getting something for the overreach. Kind of his job at this point in the game, so you can't be too frustrated with him. But again, I can't stress enough, the only reason NIP are in this game is Doinb's gold lead, and he has now completed that Archangels. And so this is a very scary rise, despite the fact that Top Esports have really, you know, kind of clawed their way back into the game, have retaken the gold lead. If you can let this rise free hit front to back, still going to be very much in favor of NIP, but it's actually going to be TES who start up on the Otacon. And right now, it doesn't look like NIP are in a perfect position to capitalize.
Teleport comes in from Solokill. Looks like they want to make this a 5v5, as 369 has been caught out just a little bit, as Naiyou finds another stun, finds a root. There's the chain of corruption, and Doinb lands the final blow. Now in a 4v5 situation, Top Esports going to have a lot more trouble around the Otacon as NIP take control of it.
Yeah, it's a huge advantage now. It's already going so low.
Redemption forward. Niket goes in, but he gets taken down before the pulverize lands. Who's going to get the Otacon? It's secured by Naiyou, but now the fight can begin in earnest. The Crescent Guard from Kanavi buying so much damage for his team. And it means that Top Esports will run away with a fight. It's a double kill for Creme, and they're looking for more. When Becomes Lightning does not land on to Leave, and that should mean they are able to escape. But what a win for TES, despite the Otacon going NIP's way.
A huge fight for Top Esports, and it's played nearly perfectly. Once again, it's Kanavi who really comes up clutch. He doesn't quite get the Otacon, but this Xin Zhao is doing so much damage in these fights. A lot of that gold very much going to use. If that Rise can't free hit, all of a sudden the gold that NIP have generated, it doesn't exist. And even with the pick early on onto 369, they just weren't able to capitalize. Dragon is up now as well, and the cat has to flash over the wall. He's just escaping. This should be complete control over the bottom side for TES.
And you see here the cooldown on that Unbreakable Will fully up. Niket did not have it here for that engage, and that resulted in him dying first in the fight. And with Naiyou dead and Solokill without a teleport, just now respawning the two of them, Top Esports going to be able to control the second dragon of the game and put themselves once again into a favorable position to try to go up to match point.
We were worried about this team, but what did we say, Grapes? They outscaled. They got there eventually. Well, they're getting there right now. Those item completions are coming in. 2 full items on the Sivir, but we get a quick replay here of how this fight happened. Niket is chunked to half. He's just done. As soon as this fight starts, Kanavi jumps in and he's immediately taken down. Yes, a bit of a consolation here as you're able to get the Otacon, but the damage has been done. Naiyou immediately gets exhausted when he dives in on the Sylas, and at this point, Kanavi and Creme and JackeyLove, they just have too much damage to break through. There's no real way for NIP to fight back, and again, it's just an over-eager setup, and NIP not really respecting the damage that TES can put out.
And you can see just how much value that Crescent Guard from Kanavi had. It split apart the fight. Doinb and Leave were at full HP, just waiting to get involved, and Kanavi had nothing to say about it. He just made sure that they weren't able to get in, and specifically for this 4-0 rise, that was a big problem here for NIP in that team fight. Naiyou and Solokill could not do all the work themselves, and so they end up going down. And Top Esports regaining control of the map just a little bit. They have themselves a gold lead again. Specifically now Kanavi, very powerful, and I'm waiting for right now JackeyLove getting to that 3-item power spike. That Infinity Edge is coming, it's coming quick.
And that's certainly going to be a pretty consequential turn of events for Top Esports. Once they get to that 3-item Sivir, all of a sudden these front-to-backs become so consistent. And, you know, we haven't really talked about him a lot, but JackeyLove's positioning this game has been phenomenal. He truly has been exceptional for this team, and you know, we talked about him so much. This really could be a defining type of playoff run, a defining type of series, and so far, so good for JackeyLove, getting this counter pick matchup into Leaves Varus and just being the better AD carry. You know, he's really stepping up as the rest of the team starts to pressure sideways.
You can see now Creme able to match a little bit what Doinb has to offer, although he is still pretty far behind in XP, about 2 levels at this point, as Doinb is about to hit 60 at the 25-minute mark. Going to be the big part of this team composition here for Ninjas Pyjamas. Again, Doinb on his signature champion. And we talked about the loss that he had against FPX. He did great in that game. Just wasn't able to have the rest of his team find that same level of success. Always Doinb on the rise. A true threat to really be a difference maker. And we're going to see if NIP have any juice left in them as they want to try to end this game and even up this series. A game that they frankly have had control over for quite a while.
Yeah, they want to be pressuring, and they want to be pressuring now. They do not want to wait too long. Yes, this rise is going to continue to be a problem, and you can buy time for Yorick, but Naiyou,
steals away
my words.
That blue buff, but you can see right now it's a 2-level lead, but it might not matter. Solokill can collapse upon him. Instead, gonna push away 369 with the Crescent Guard, but Kanavi will do just the same.
Teleport.
And now the target will turn towards the Cassante. Creme comes forward with the teleport, and that is enough to push NIP away.
That's so many resources burned to try and kill Kanavi, and it still doesn't work. They are going to be able to rotate into the mid lane here. The tier 2 in the mid lane is going to look to be a target, but there's no way they're going to be able to pick this up easily. It's a lot of resources burned from both sides for what looks to be, you know, minimal pressure. We do see some pings going down onto Baron, but that would be a ridiculous call if they wanted to go for it. Could be a very aggressive decision, though. We'll see what they want to do. It looks like they are just going to back off, at least for now. Again, a lot of resources burned, but man, this Xin Zhao's unkillable.
It's going to have to be Naiyou in some capacity going in there and ignoring that Crescent card, just getting straight into Kanavi's face. But you can see the Sylas in a position to test 1v1 with the Xin Zhao at this point, and so going to have some help with the rest of his team. Catches, picks, that's what NIP are going to have to operate off of right now. Utilizing the side lane pressure that they have in the 1-3-1. They have a good matchup for Solokill up against the Aurora, and the rest of the team is hovering around that top side to make sure that TS do not start a Baron.
This is exactly what needs to happen. You got to buy as much time for Yorick as possible. You got those grubs and you got the Herald for a reason. You wanted to be able to play around the split push, and they're starting
Creme
Baron.
doesn't have TP. He's going to have to walk all the way up from the bottom lane. Meanwhile, Solokill able to join his team. They're going to try to burst it down as fast as possible. They're 5,000 HP, but Kanavi is going to try to get in the pit as fast as he can. Niket will box him out and make sure that the Baron is secured at the cost of Niket's life. It's a big win for Ninjas Pyjamas in that sense. Now the question remains, what can they do with the Baron buff?
Absolutely massive play there from NIP, recognizing that Creme can't make his way to the fight. They just burn it down before anyone can get involved. They are going to lose their mid lane tier 1 for this, but I don't imagine they're going to lose too much more. Now they've got that Baron buff, and more importantly, they've taken that option away from TES during one of their biggest power spikes. Solo kill with Grubs, with Baron buff, should be able to generate a ton of pressure. It's just how much can they get in the next 2 minutes.
And a Realm Warp comes forward. Doinb might have found JackeyLove, forcing the cleanse at the very least, but it looks like the chase is still on because Solokill is collapsing upon the Sivir, upon the Split 3 MVP. Lands the shovel, forces the flash, but Solokill will follow all the same. That's a kill on the TS80 carry, and NIP have found themselves a massive pick.
Yeah, and it's not done. They're continuing to push forward. The chains are going to get cleansed.
But the follow-up, it lands still onto Creme. He's now forced to flash away, but Niket goes too far forward without his ultimate and will go down. The Dragon is still available. You'd imagine NIP want to retreat towards that as Doinb is doing work on the top side of the map. But right now, NIP still want to capitalize on this Baron buff. They take the mid lane tier 2 and will then retreat towards the objective.
It's a massive swing for NIP, a brilliant call for them to start and to take that Baron, and it's completely put them back into the driver's seat of this game. They're going to take their second Drake here, Ocean Dragon. This game might be going for a while. We didn't think Dragons were going to matter, but they very much could be in play now. It doesn't matter how strong your carries are if they can't get on top of any sort of priority targets, and especially when JackeyLove's a little too far forward. Now all of a sudden there's a lot of gold in the pockets of people that can really utilize it. This Yorick is in a big spot, and yep, it's being highlighted. That Infinity Edge has been completed for Sivir. These team fights have gotten scary for both sides, and I for one cannot wait to see what both teams do next.
Seems like picks have been what has allowed for either team to find team fight wins. Is NIP have the Baron. They had, you know, a nice set of kills. But this game is far from over at this point as we approach the 30-minute mark of game number 2. Incredible that a team from Group Nirvana is able to go toe-to-toe with the #1 team from Group Ascend, but that is exactly the magic that NIP are trying to harness now as the first round of their playoffs begin against the Split 1 champions. Now mid lane wave's going to get contested over Niket with an aggressive Hex Flash forward. It might cost him a whole lot. He's going to have to pop the ultimate. He dashes away from the Braum ulti himself, but here comes the collapse from
Doinb's
369. He's not able to get the kill onto the cow. A teleport comes forward from Doinb as all of NIP have converged onto the bottom into the mid lane. It prevents the split pushing, but now they found Kanavi. Upscond of Duck Guts connect. The Crescent Guard gonna buy some time. Finding the kill on Niket is the Xin Zhao. Leave unable to do anything for now, but here comes the rest of the damage. Here comes top esports, and here comes JackeyLove. He gets chained though. Leaves untouched. Leaves got himself a triple kill, and NIP end up finding the ace, and they have a wave in the mid lane with inhibitor towers only ones remaining.
Leave gets a chance to pop off to make up for the positioning mistakes he made earlier on. They are sieging down the base, and with death timers this long, that's going to be a game win for NIP to tie this series up at 1 apiece.
It looked shaky in the start of that fight, but it ends beautifully for Ninjas in Pyjamas. The team from Group Nirvana will take down the first place seed in a game in this series. The question is, how many more can they take? This series is even up at 1.
Whew. All right, Grapes, we got ourselves a series. We were, you know, maybe getting a little bit concerned after game 1, but you can never feel too comfortable with top esports, and that's exactly what we got in game number 2. A blast of a game, a back and forth pendulum swinging affair with mistakes and capitalizations. Ninjas in Pyjamas are able to pick it up off of a fantastic Baron call, and then a truly phenomenal fight from Leave and really from the entire team coming in at the end. What a team effort to keep themselves tied up.
I want to watch back that last fight. I thought that it was going to be disaster for NIP after Niket went down early. Kanavi, though, as soon as his Crescent Guard expired, just melted to the likes of Leave here, who was basically out of the fight for the start of it. But as soon as that ultimate for the Xin Zhao went down, he was finally able to do something in that game. It felt like he was just completely a non-factor for the first 32 minutes of that one. But it mattered very much so at the end of it, most notably finding the Chain of Corruption onto JackeyLove, who was having a great team fight of his own right on the Sivir, taking him down and allowing for NIP to pick up a win against TES here in this best of 5. How incredible is that?
I think what's most impressive to me about that fight from Leave is that he held the chains until the end, until exactly when he needed it on JackeyLove. He didn't feel the need to use it to, peel his team away from Kanavi or anything like that. He was like, let's make sure that we can get this AD carry locked up. And he got to free fire. I mean, the peel in that fight was tremendous. The target prioritization from top esports, not ideal. They end up putting so many resources into killing Niket and then eventually Naiyou in that fight that they just don't really have the damage to break through Leave as well. It's a game of inches, Grapes. It's a game of micro movements, and in that one, NIP came out.
Yeah, and just a really well-played set specifically for the top side of the map. I mean, we got to give so much credit to Doinb on that rise. Solo kill, generating a lot of pressure in the side lanes on his Yorick, making Creme feel very, very sad for a lot of the time, trying to match what this Yorick had to offer. On TS's side, I feel like you can't blame Kanavi for that one. He was doing his damnedest in that game. It was just a couple of team fights that did not go their way at the very end of things, and maybe overextending a little bit after they already got, a ton of, they got a TP, they got an ultimate off of Niket. Maybe you just back off at that point and try to play for that next fight afterwards.
You gotta have something else other than that. I mean, the fight looked okay, but really at the end of the day, it just comes down to execution. And top esports were good for most of that game. They played really well. I think they had good responses, but you're right, it's the small mistakes. I think the big one that stands out is Creme not having teleport. I mean, really, that's it, right? It's those minor mental errors where you don't have TP, they start Baron, you can't get to it, the game's over. All of a sudden, NIP, that one mistake costs everything, and it's the decisive decision-making of NIP that is so impressive, and that's the kind of thing that I think really made them so fun to watch in Group Nirvana, and it's really carried over even against the the #1 team from the regular season.
Yeah, we saw them find openings in that game #1. They were just too far behind to take advantage of, and this time they were able to do so as, now top esports dropping a game to start off their playoffs. Of course, they would have loved this to be a 3-0 sweep, not even have to think about anything, as, again, that is what their trajectory in the regular season may have suggested, but struggling on red side is something that we're going to have to continue to watch here for this team, as they have now dropped games to NIP, as well as WE and FPX, who are already out of the tournament. As we take another look at some of the replays of this game, a big fighter on the Otacon. This is where we thought maybe top esports could have found their scaling. It just wasn't enough at the end of the day.
This looks phenomenal for TES. Honestly, in 9 times out of 10, you look at this fight, you look at this game state, this fight wins them the game, right? If you end up playing more clinical towards the back end, there should be no way that you are in a position where you can lose from this spot because you have so much gold on the priority targets. It's a really nice flash coming in from Hong to be able to keep himself alive, but it's the small mistakes that end up costing them. JackeyLove overextended, doing exactly what we criticized Leave for, greeting for a wave, stepping up a little bit too far, Solokill, Doinb, utilizing their resources, again, being decisive and making the call to capitalize and punish. It's those split-second decisions that I think, NIP have at times struggled with, but they did not struggle with that at all in this series. They, if anything, or at least in this game, they looked phenomenal in that, very small window.
You see, there's just not enough damage to, take down anybody here on NIP side. Doinb lives through all of the stuff that Creme, that JackeyLove, that even Kanavi, until he ends up going down, were able to throw at him. And because they tried to hit onto the rise and were unable to do so, it meant that Leave was completely untouched, and he was doing a fantastic job for them in that last fight specifically to make up for some of the mistakes that he had in the early game. That's what we know about Leave, right? He can team fight well, just got to avoid being caught out in the mid-game portions of games, and this is a real good AD carry. As we've already seen, this AD carry matchup truly deliver. It was our featured matchup, of course, going into this best of 5.
We've gotten everything we wanted out of this mid lane matchup already. The bot lane matchup, all of it. It's been so good. It's been you wanted to see these two teams feel competitive against each other. There was a concern that #1 from Group Ascend, #1 from Group Nirvana. No, these feel like two teams that both showed up here today. And now, I talk about it all the time. Game 3 is the most important game of a best of 5 when you're tied up at 1 apiece. Getting that, I guess lead establishing win, getting that momentum from a game 3, how you either turn around that game 2 loss or reestablish your dominance from game #1 is really going to show us what these teams have inside them to be able to move forward even after this series in the playoffs.
Pretty decisive game. You'd imagine top esports go back to blue side where they are very comfortable. And as we go throughout Fearless, this is going to be an interesting thing to watch, as I feel like NIP, they they feel more comfortable with specific champions, you know, in their pool. I'm very curious to see how it works out as we go towards Game 5, like when you have to go towards the Nidalees for Naiyou, etc. And Top Esports, of course, very comfortable going the distance here. Player of the game going to Doinb on his signature Rise pick. They thought that maybe they were able to, you know, Top Esports were able to give it up because, you know, it lost game number 1 of the last series, but not the case this time.
Don't give Doinb Rise. It really should be as simple as that. We can't let this happen, man. We've learned too much. We've gone too far in human evolution to still be on this issue. At least he won't have it for the rest of the series.
Hey, yeah, guess what? True Fearless means that he won't be able to play that Rise. So Top Esports mission accomplished, but it did cost them a game to defeat as Ninja Pyjamas have evened up our series. And what's this? Oh, series on our hands. We got game number 3 coming right after this on LPL English. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.